Okay, so what do luggage allowances, snow globes, bags full of books, working shoulder to shoulder in a field, splitting your life into 7-year intervals, and shopping at Walmart have to do with gratitude? Well, that's what Michael McCarthy explains to us in this episode of Seeing to Lead. Hey everyone, Dr. Jones here, the host of Seeing to Lead, a podcast designed to help solve the problems leaders face every day. And this week, we're talking gratitude. We aren't just talking gratitude. We're looking at specific strategies that can be enacted in any room. That's classroom, boardroom, or even your own rooms in your house to increase your use and understanding of the practice of gratitude. Look, Michael tells us from the start of his life-changing encounter in Vietnam that led him to understand the purposefulness of practicing gratitude on a daily basis. He gives us plenty of analogies that we can use, plenty of examples. But his most simple one is the idea of purchasing a simple, inexpensive journal at Walmart and starting with writing down one gratitude a day. Start that journal, carry it with you, and the law of attraction will suddenly find you changing your perspective and your lens and looking for things you are grateful for. All of that positive noise definitely drowns out the negative noise. And finally, utilizing these things Michael shares with us, checking out his newsletter that he started so that he's not just talking about gratitude, but acting on it, will help all of us spread this most important practice far and wide so that everybody can benefit. This is a great episode. You're going to find so much value in it. So please remember to hit that subscribe button and give the show a rating and review. Reviews help more than you could ever imagine. I'd be very grateful. But I'm going to ask you one more thing as well. Share this on social media with all your friends. And once you subscribe to the newsletter, yes, you're going to want to subscribe to his newsletter, I promise. Encourage others to as well. Share it all so that we can follow Michael's example and spread gratitude around the world. But enough from me. Let's hear some of this, or let's hear a lot of this from Michael McCarthy on Seeing to Lead.
I want you to go through those big blocks of 7, 14, 21, 28, whatever. Maybe it's my first child being born. And I want you to have like 2, 3, 4, 8-4-page sheets of just good stuff and start reading over that, daily, just for 2 minutes. And I'm telling you, the effect that'll have on you will be incredible because it'll just be like a bank of just goodness, What is good? What is beautiful? What is true? Focus on those things,
Dr. Chris Jones here, and welcome to Seeing to Lead, a show designed to help leaders increase their ability to effectively support, engage, and empower their staff through intentional practices so that they create an environment where everyone reaches their greatest level of success. On Seeing to Lead, communication rules the day as we hear voices from both teachers and leaders in an effort to examine perspectives, highlight misunderstandings, and provide steps to ultimately bridge the gap between what teachers need and provide through thoughtful dialogue. This show is about amplifying voices, creating understanding, and providing information to help everyone continually improve. I want to personally thank you for taking the time. Now, let's get to getting better. Mike McCarthy has been teaching for 15 years, 11 of those in a primary Catholic school and 4 in a private school in Shanghai, China. He holds a strong belief that being human is very important when it comes to working with children in any setting at any age. After facing both ups and downs in his career, Mike came upon the concept of gratitude on his travels in Vietnam and realized how essential it is to practice to increase the amount of joyous moments you experience. As a result, he tries to impress that thought on his students and those he meets. He's the creator of a newsletter focused on spreading gratitude and spends his time looking for connections with other people and enjoying the beauty of life. I'm really excited to speak with Mike today because I think that gratitude is such an underappreciated game changer. I can't wait to hear his take on how we can incorporate it in our everyday lives. And I have to say, before we even get going, I am a subscriber to Mike's newsletter, and we're going to put that link in the show notes and everything later. but I encourage you to do so as well, and know you will want to after hearing Mike talk today. So Mike, welcome to the show.
Chris, it is an absolute honor to be here and to talk with you. And I want to say a huge thanks right from the get-go for giving me an opportunity to speak to you and your audience and share something that's passionate to me and that I feel deeply about. So cheers, Chris.
Thank you. I can't wait. This is going to be great because, like I said before, the gratitude part is huge. So let's kick it right off with gratitude and your newsletter. Let's wrap all this up in one, because in your latest issue of the newsletter that I read, when we were talking before I hit the record button, it really stuck with me because of its relevance to the time that we find ourselves, many of us educators, at the end of a school year, beginning summer, and doing some reflecting. So let me just read this passage, if you don't mind, and then I'll ask you to kind of talk about where it came from or how it sits with people.
Let's shit out,
It says, I know it is difficult to sustain gratitude. It can sometimes feel impossible. The world will drag it out of you and your spirit will grow tired as we are bombarded with so much doom and gloom. But keep the flame alive. I want to give you this weekly reminder, and God willing, some prompts will sink in, making you take a moment to reflect on how blessed you are. I just think about how important that is. So where did that come from? How can we apply it in schools? How can it be made more meaningful, even more meaningful to teachers and administrators as they take off for the summer?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing I think it's really important to say is that teachers, I'm on the front lines with you. I was just talking to you there before the call. I've just sent my sixth class, we call them here in Ireland. I'm in a primary school in Ireland, an Irish Catholic school in Ireland. I've just sent them out the door on their way, we call it Ireland secondary school, what you call probably high school. So I'm there with you, and I feel like towards this end of the year, you're just tired. And as well, I had the most gorgeous class you could imagine this year. They were just a delight to teach. We had such great stories and such great shared experiences, but not every year is going to be like that. So I could go from the get-go, I would think of 100 things I'm grateful for. But then dealing with other classes, it might have been a bit more of a struggle to find something I'm grateful for. So I just think in one sense, there's two ways to look at it. There's this idea of that, be grateful that you reached the end of the year. Be grateful that you have a fresh start ahead of you. You've got a brand new class coming next year. And then I would say I would tend to, before I leave rooms, I'm a very much a kind of a symbolic person. So I would, before I leave that room, before I turn off the light switch, I would kind of almost leave a blessing over that room and being like, find a memory that just fills you up with love and goodness and warmth. Even if you had a tough class, it could be that day you had the movie day and you all dressed up as your favorite Disney characters. It could be that moment where that child is not very good at reading, comes up to you and says, I read that passage for the first time, I feel amazing. It could be the child that doesn't like writing that comes to you and knocks you over being like, I did my best essay yet. Anything like that just feeds your heart. I would say eat and dine on it. Take those moments and suck them in. And like I said this to my kids today, be like a sponge. Just soak up all that goodness, all that positivity, and bring that with you to next year. Anything else that's not good for you, that's a negative idea, any negative self-talk, any bad experiences, dust your feet on the classroom door, leave them behind you, and go forth into the summer and replenish yourself and recharge.
That is such a powerful statement. And I hope people really listen to that and listen deeply to it, because it brought forth a couple of memories to me. One of them I can remember, we spent a couple summers where we decided to bring our whole family together and get a couple weeks on a beach, down on a beach near us. And it was always sad when it was time to leave. I can really remember standing on a porch it was a big porch with the glass windows that you could see out over the water. And as everybody packed, I took one last trip into the house. And I can remember standing there in the doorway of that room, looking out over the ocean and just letting the memories wash over me, where I could almost hear the kids laughing. I could almost hear the splashing. And any negative things, any little petty argument cropped up like they do when we're with family, they just washed away. And to this day, I have that positive memory of that place with me. And I think if we could do that in schools with classrooms, where take that one last glimpse of all the good that happened. And I love you're saying dust off your feet of the bad.
Dust off your feet, dust off the hands. It will do you no good. And I know more than anyone. I've had some students in my time and they've really frustrated me, and there's been hurtful things that's happened in anyone's career, with parents or fellow teachers. It's just nature. I mean, this human world. If you bring those with you, it will not help you. It will not serve you in any way or form. You have to just let it go. And it's like focus on the good. Focus on the good things. And if there's a lesson to be learned, by all means, take a lesson. Maybe, for example, if something happened, but maybe my discipline will be better next year, etc., etc. But don't let that personal stuff fester in your heart, because it'll just eat away at you. So you have to be disciplined in one sense. Be like, once that door closes, I'm on holiday mode and I'm taking only with me the good things. It's a bit like this. It's a bit like, when you go on an airplane, you've got a luggage allowance. We call it luggage allowance. You're allowed 20 kg or 5 kg. I would say to myself, I'm only allowing 15 good memories on this as I leave this classroom. Nothing else. I'm not taking anything else with me. I'm not, because it doesn't serve me, that idea of, and then I would write those memories down on a list and I would look at them and I would really repeatedly look at them. Oh yeah, that was fun. Oh, that was great. Oh yeah. Remember when that parent called me and said that Johnny came home so happy because of what I did? I would nourish myself on that, and we can talk about that in a minute if you want, that idea of how I record, things like that, my gratitude.
I'm just shocked at the simplicity and how powerful the luggage analogy is, because many of us, or many of the listeners here, have probably at one point or another gone into an airport and they've only been allowed to have luggage that's so heavy and so much poundage or so much allowance. So they have to get rid of things. And the only things they keep are the things that are going to serve them. So that's such a short step to the idea of gratitude. Because when you were talking before, I was thinking about the struggle to find gratitude. Because sometimes we have some difficulty, but we want to begin. So let's talk about all the people that want to begin this idea of gratitude and practicing gratitude.
Chris, I've got literally a million ideas popping off my head. It's amazing. But I just want to finish off the luggage thing for 1 second. I do a lovely lesson with my 6th grade class. Oh my God, I'm using American terms. My 6th class, but 6th grade, whatever you're going to call it. And I get them to go around with an empty bag, right? And I get everybody is going to say something mean. So a kid says something mean. I'm not saying they come up with an insult. They literally say something mean, right? And every time something mean is said, they put a book in the bag. After about 20 kids, the girl is finding it hard to hold up the bag anymore because she's taken on all those bad stuff. So I do the same exercise with the same girl, and I say to her, now, every time she's going to say something mean to you, you're going to say thank you. You're going to turn the other cheek, as it were. And you're going to remain classy, and you're going to show your integrity, and you're going to show your nobility, and you're going to show the honor that you carry yourself with. And you're going to look to me and you're going to say, thank you, thank you, thank you, 20 times. And I said to the girl, her name is Brina, I said to the girl, Brina, how heavy is your bag if you hold it up with like your little finger? I said, that's how you go through life. Yeah? That's gratitude in a nutshell.
That's absolutely fantastic, because and that addresses the question that I was going to ask you. Is there a way to, and maybe this is a negative way of putting it, but is there a way to fake it until you make it with gratitude? Is there a way to just maybe go through the motions until it really is working for you?
It's a bit like this. It's like what they say is something about what gets measured gains progress or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like basically you can get we call it in Ireland a copybook, but it's a notebook. Like I bought 25 notebooks for my kids about January this year. It cost like €1 a notebook, about 85 cents, right? So very cheap, right? So they were like these little narrow notebooks like that. So very narrow notebook. And I got them to split it up, right? In a page in the middle. One thing that happened today and one thing you're grateful for. That's it. So a memory of today, it could be Mr. McCarthy brought us doing PE. We did rounders. It was fun. It could be Mr. McCarthy. We had a quiz today in class. We went to a local university. A clown came to the school. Anything, right? And then underneath that then is I am grateful for friends. I am grateful for my family. I'm grateful for playing tea with my friends. And we just did it every single day. And you know what was so funny? After about 2 weeks, I said to her, I was like, I'm going to annoy you. I don't care. We're going to take 5 minutes to do our gratitude journal. And I'd walk around the room. Oh, you're grateful for your sister. Oh, wow. And it was like a muscle. It just had to work it a little bit. And then once you get into the habit of it, they start storing up these gratitude images. They're like literally going out there and they're like, oh, wow, I'm going to write that in my journal. That was cool. Like, you see, and I think once you start getting into the habit of writing it down, your mindset changes and you start looking for these things to write down. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a bit like, do you know the way if you ever wanted a brand new car and then the car you wanted to see, you see it everywhere.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Whereas otherwise you would have driven by it. It's same with gratitude. It's like when you start having a practice of gratitude, you start looking for those moments that you're like, great, that's my one for the day. I definitely going to go with that. You know? And it's amazing what happens.
That makes plenty sense. Yeah, it's when you start doing something, what just comes to you, what you're just called to or what your attention is. I found that, so I do gratitude in the morning. I write down 3 things I'm grateful for.
Good.
And when I first started that, it was like, I'm grateful for my boys. I'm grateful for my wife. I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for that. And it was, I could just name different things. But where the work really came in and where the progress came in was probably a week into it when I couldn't just write down, oh, I'm grateful for this. I actually had to think about what I was grateful for in my life. And I remember at one point writing down that I'm grateful for a full refrigerator.
Yes.
Because then I started to really think about people that suffer food scarcity.
Yeah.
It felt different. It changed my way of looking at things, increased my empathy for different situations. So it really works. Like what you're talking about when you do it, like you're working a muscle where you really start noticing everything that you have good in your life.
Yep.
It really chases out the negative.
And you start becoming like a radar for the good.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like it's like a sin. You start living life for the good part. It's perspective changing.
Yeah.
You know?
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, even there with like kids, I saw them like at the start for my dog. It was very generic stuff. But there was days they'd probably write half a page.
Yeah.
You know, once they started, you know?
Yeah.
And you know what I think is amazing, because we talked about, the kid teachers at the start of the year, or sorry, the end of the year, they're feeling tired, some of them might have had bad experiences. What would you think about it as well? Like, and I know I haven't quite worked this one out because I never want to look down at anybody. But for example, if you're a teacher in America, right? Would you rather be a teacher in America or a teacher in Soviet Union, Russia?
Right.
You know, in like the year 1940, 1950, with Stalin overlooking you.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Or would you rather be a teacher in Africa where you know that there's domestic abuse happening in some homes? Some children aren't going to come back to there. There's religious persecution happening in the environment. Kind of says that there's always somebody that is probably worse off. And I feel that, like, I do bring a spiritual element. I feel it's only right to give thanks. Be like, I've got a lot of good things to do here. You know, and I want to say thank you. It's a bit like, there is that spiritual lesson from Jesus in the Bible where 10 lepers are healed and only one comes back to say thanks. I think that's very, very deep. I think there's times too where we can kind of get caught up in our own negative spiral and be like, oh, like, this is shocking. How can I live like this? Blah, blah. But you take apart your life. It's air conditioning, a car, a full fridge, a wife, children. I have sewage, like as in sewage works in my school. There's no, like, it's not it's not conditions that are really bad. I got full canteen. I've got kids that have parents that care about them. There's a lot of stuff I have that we can get caught up on the negative side of it. So we just need to change our perspective. It's a bit like changing the lens on the camera.
Right.
We need to change the filter so that we see the good stuff.
Supporting your teachers and students seems to be a struggle. They just don't seem to be engaged. You wish they would take more responsibility for their learning and culture of the building, but they just don't seem to be empowered enough to do it. So, my question is, have you checked out the book Seeing to Lead yet? It's all about creating a true educational experience where learning, growth, leadership, and community takes center stage. Full of strategies and resources, Seeing to Lead is about attaining that goal by employing a model that supports, engages, and empowers all individuals to become leaders themselves. Pick up a copy today at seeingtolead.com. That's seeingtolead.com. Remember, you don't become a leader and then decide you need to support and recognize others more than yourself. It is the moment you realize it's about supporting and recognizing others that you become a leader. seeingtolead.com.
So all the things you're saying are absolutely fantastic. I could listen to them for hours. But there's an origin story to this, how you came across this, you had mentioned, and it has to do with Vietnam and traveling to Vietnam.
That's a really good question.
And hear this.
Yeah. No, Chris, fair play to you for bringing that back up, because that is a very important point. This is the genesis of what I'm doing. Long story short, I'm an absolute museum, like every teacher here, I'm a museum nerd. Like, it's ridiculous, you know? Like, I was the one, I remember I spent the summer in Chicago, and I'll never forget it. Shout out to anyone in Chicago. I'll never forget it. I went to so many museums in Chicago that I even went to like the museum for surgeons and doctors. And I think I'll never forget when I went in there, it was like some guy was walking up. He was like, "What are you doing in here? No one ever comes in here." And I'm like, "Well, I'm here to look into surgeons and doctor history from the 1850 to present day." But I go to museums everywhere. So I went to Vietnam. I went to the Remnants War Museum in Vietnam, which is about the Vietnam War. And they had a section, and it was devoted to Agent Orange. So Agent Orange was something that the America sprayed over the crops, because basically there was a lot of, it was guerrilla warfare, and a lot of the Vietnamese were in trees. And in a way to kind of level the playing field, as it were, they started spraying this chemical, which was like a very potent poison, on the jungle to eradicate trees so that there'd be nowhere for them to hide anymore. But unfortunately, and God bless the poor people in Vietnam, it has caused it's caused very horrific birth defects to the population there, and they suffered greatly because of it. So there's a section devoted to that, the effects of Agent Orange. So there's pictures of children with, various deformities. There's a picture of a teacher. We talk about teachers. A teacher that is maybe, I would say, maybe 4 foot and has deformities. And she got her teaching degree, and she got whatever, and she went back taught in that area. But again, she's negatively affected by, there's children that have birth defects, and their children and their parents are walking through the jungle for 2 miles to bring them to school. So you said there's even the children beyond that are in cages, because whatever happened to them, they lost their sense of controlling their appetite. So they literally would eat anything. So they had to be put in the cage. It's really, really, really horrible stuff to look at, but needs to be looked at, And I'll never forget it. I came out of that war, and I was actually tearful. And I was like, "Oh, Michael, like, you are so blessed. I mean, look at the chance you had. Look at the, the education. Look at the healthy environment. I mean, I compared it. It's green. It's forest. Like, I spent my summers, jumping into the lake, fishing with my dad. Beautiful childhood. And I see what these children had to suffer with, And, any teacher can teach child suffering. It hurts us, So I don't think it's tearful. But I'll never forget it. I came out of the room, and I nearly was crying. I was tearful. And I looked, and I got someone pulling on my arm. And I looked down, and there was a lady, again, very short and stunted and a hunch. And she's clearly someone that had a birth defect. And I'll never forget it. Now, she was selling something, but she was selling Bracelet. But I'll never forget what it said on the bracelet that she told me. 5 words, or 5 letters. Lucky, lucky. And I said to myself, that is very powerful. Now, I'm not sure if that woman knew what she was doing in terms of, I'm not sure did she know did she know the great irony that a lady that I would say, I mean, how could you say you're lucky? You've had birth defects, you've got, all these various things that you've suffered with. And here, this middle class, Western, healthy, obviously well-off person coming through here, and you're selling lucky. Now, maybe you're telling me that I'm lucky, or maybe you're saying that you're lucky. Who am I to judge? I don't know. But all I can tell you was that a light bulb went off me, being like, buddy, I'm going to get it now. I'm going to get it. You're actually lucky. Like, you're blessed. You're absolutely blessed, And it took that lady to teach me that lesson. So that was the genesis of being blessed.
That's a fantastic story. The idea, and that's what it takes, is us realizing, right? Because we get caught up in our own little existence. We get caught up in our own negativity, or something went the way we didn't want it to go, or we don't feel quite comfortable. And we don't realize or perceive that other people have things much worse off than we do. And sometimes even on a smaller level, we don't even stop to perceive the other person's story. Everybody's living a story. And ours is quite different than everybody else's. There are some areas where they come close and they touch and you can make connections between them, but everybody's got that story with them that if we don't stop to think about it, it's really easy to not be grateful for what we have.
100%. 100%. I mean, literally, that was a clear, again, I talked to you about crossing the threshold. That was a clear threshold moment. That was before and after. And, everyone's saying, I don't want to be taking pops at anybody, but now we live in the age of the guru and, sign up to my, spend, 2 weeks with me in Bali and I'm going to share with you the secrets for life. That kind of idea.
Yeah.
And there's a woman here who probably never went to school. I learned more from her in that exchange than probably quite a few other big things I paid money for.
Right. Yeah.
All it was the bracelet. I carried it with me. I don't have it anymore, but it got in here. I got into the heart. It changed my perspective on things forever, really. Being like, go to the good, realize how lucky you have it, and give thanks. You are lucky, you are blessed.
So this happens to you. You head back home and you start a newsletter to spread this. And a newsletter that I have to say, it's a good newsletter. I appreciate, I'm grateful for meeting you and being able to sign up for the newsletter. It's a good newsletter. It's brief. It doesn't take up a ton of time, but it really makes you think. It hits it right on the head.
Thank you. Look, here's the analogy. Sorry, Chris, I didn't brush up just on the newsletter. Here's my analogy to my newsletter, right? I am not someone who's going to give you advice on the stock market or blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go off and I don't have the ability to write a poem. So I can't have this big, long thing, All I want to do is I want to give you a snow globe. And I want to shake up your snow globe, let snowflakes go up in the air for a little bit and let it settle down again in a 1 minute. But if my newsletter takes longer than 2 minutes to read, A, people won't read it. And B, I'll just ramble on. It has to be kind of perspective thing. That's all. In a very short amount of time. That's all I want to do.
I would encourage everybody to go ahead and sign up to that because it is so good.
Right. And it comes out every Sunday, Chris. And the idea being that it comes out on Sunday again. Look, I'm a Catholic. On Sunday, I try and keep holding the Sabbath day. It's a day for regeneration, a day for rejuvenation, a day for leisure. And I think it's a nice day to get that little message.
So let's bring this full circle to school because we had opened that way talking about it as teachers go on break and as leaders go on break. Because we often get mired in what's going wrong, the difficult students, the time, the deadlines, the paperwork.
Yes.
What's some advice? How do we make this work as leaders for our staff? How do we get our staff to, besides us going first and realizing gratitude first on our part, but then how do we spread that to our staff to help them stare down these things that are going wrong and hold on to the good and move forward in that positive light throughout the year?
Well, the first thing, look, I would do, I'm not trying to be facetious. I genuinely would say, here's a good newsletter I came across. I would subscribe to this. It's helped me experience more joy. Now, there's two ways this could go, right? I could imagine, right, you're a guy we'll say someone like me, right? And I go and I speak to the science department. And I say to them, hey, you know what, guys, there's been this thing done and, practice gratitude, it's proven to make you feel happier. I can imagine the scientists being like, oh, well, is there any proof? What's the theory done of this? And what's the latest Stanford opinion on it? Blah, 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 blah. They're not just going to bite with it. No. So the first thing is you have to say this, right? I'm a person led by my heart, right? And not everyone is going to get this. And I think that's cool. I think you obviously are heart led and you're emotion led. And I think sometimes as well is there's this whole audacity is like, I need to justify myself to the accounting department. I don't need to justify myself to anybody. I am who I am, and this is what I value, and I'm going to share that with other people who value it. But I'm not going to just ram it down people's throats and expect them to like it as well, because they won't. So I think if you're looking and saying, like, I've got to push to our staff room woes, it's all gratitude. 50% of the people are going to say, it's nonsense, it doesn't work. So I think you have to be very practical about the whole thing. But I do think as well, for the people that are kind of, Uber, like Uber in their heads, if anyone's ever familiar with The Little Prince, the novel, but if you read that book, Chris?
Yes.
I always think of the planet where Johnny's the planet that he lands on, and it's the guy with the numbers he lands on. And he's just like, the guy just crunching the numbers looked up at him, and he's like, what are you? Back to the numbers. Like, where are you going? Oh, he man asked him, like, what about this planet? I don't know, I've never been there. I haven't been there because I'm too busy crunching numbers. It's all about money, blah, 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 blah. And he goes to another planet with a guy writing down all the time. Oh no, I only write about things, I don't actually visit them. So there's that kind of a mindset, that scientific mindset, that can sometimes stand in the way of this practice. So as I say, if you're going to suggest it to people, don't be offended if they don't take it up, because I think it's not everyone's cup of tea. That's the first piece of advice. But then again, someone like Huberman Lab might do an episode on the power of gratitude, and then they're all up for it, So I would just I'd be careful. As well, I'd say don't get disheartened if you feel very into this and people don't share it, because as I said, it's not for everyone. That's the first tip. And I would say the second tip too is you got to practice it yourself. You have to be doing this regularly. And if people are seeing you, jeepers, you're a little bit chirpier, then you can tell them, oh yeah, well, I'm actually keeping this gratitude journal. It actually worked. I thought it was like kind of a bit woo-woo, but it's actually really effective. It's really simple. It's easy to do. And I actually find I'm kind of building up a habit of it now. That's another way. You know what I mean? What do they say? I don't tell people how they should behave. I show it by my actions. That idea, so you have to kind of really just practice it. And I want to say, anybody out there, if you really believe what I'm saying, you think it's important, the biggest tip I would say as well is you need to develop a kind of encyclopedia of gratitude. So what I would do is, I'm a keen believer in the number 7. 7 is such an important number for so many reasons. Split your life into 7-year intervals. 7, 14, 21, 28. I'll stop, Chris, because it doesn't apply to us any further than that, right? But every 7 years, I want you to go back in time, take 20 minutes, take a cup of coffee, go like, what really good things happened between 0 and 7? Oh, my first memory, I'll never forget it. That time when myself and my 2 sisters, we went over to our neighbour's donkey and we were feeding him carrots. I remember that. And then, and then you go 7 to 14, you're beginning to go into your teenage years. I finished primary school and we had the most beautiful teacher. We had so much fun. We had laughter with her. It was such a nice time. I remember I scored a really important goal in our cup final and the whole team carried me off the pitch. I remember that time that my mom and dad for the first time let me cycle to school by myself. I want you to go through those big blocks of 7, 14, 21, 28, whatever. Maybe it's my first child be born. And I want you to have like 2, 3, 4, 8-page, A4-page sheets of just good stuff and start reading over that, daily, just for 2 minutes. And I'm telling you, the effect that'll have on you will be incredible, because it'll just be like a bank of just goodness. What is good, what is beautiful, what is true. Focus on those things, and I feel once you get your own practice in place, then go to your classmates or go to your colleagues about it, But if you're sitting around and you want to say to co-worker, okay, we're all going to make it in a circle and I'm going to take this pen here. And when you get the pen, you must say something you're grateful for in front of the group. And we're going to pass it on. And it'll be the most cringeworthy experience you'll ever have in your life. So don't do that.
Don't do that. Look, Michael, I can't even, between the book bag being passed around the room, between that, the luggage, the snow globe analogy, and what you just said about segmenting your life, the amount of value you're adding to people that are listening, that I could
thanks, Chris,
you forever. But as we get to the end of this, because all good things must come to an end,
of course, Chris.
But as we get to the end of this show, I have 2 questions I ask everybody, and I can't wait for a couple of these answers just because of all the value you've added in this short amount of time. If you weren't an educator, not what would you be?
I don't know. I'd say I could be one of 2 things. I'd say I could probably be, I have a deep spiritual inside me. So I think I could have been a monk or a priest maybe in another life. I would say, I think that wouldn't have been a stretch. I think I'd also would have been like maybe a therapist. That kind of something that's connection with people. It's very important to me. And the other thing is something that I still want to be. is I do think I'm an entrepreneur and I love coming up with new ideas. And I've tried so many things. I've had course businesses. I've been selling stocks. So there's still a part of me that loves that adventure of I love creating new things. And I love offering a product to a consumer and seeing, will the market value it?
That's awesome.
Maybe I can combine it all together yet. You never know. I might combine it all together where spirituality and entrepreneurship kind of meet. But you never know. God is good. I'm sure there might be a way.
You've got the drive and you've got the years ahead of you to do that. So I wouldn't be surprised if I saw you come up with something.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. I'll take that blessing.
So what's the most important piece of advice you would give to leaders as they work to better support, engage, and empower those they serve?
I'll tell you what, Chris. I'll tell you what. When I saw this question, I love answering it. Because it's a bugbear we are. He's super important. And I almost cut you off the one land so definitely.
No. Oh, good.
Key ability. It's all about humility. It's all about humility. I'm sure you're aware of this, Chris, because I'm sure you're in leadership. You've heard of the servant leader. You know yourself, I'm sure. Humus coming from the ground. It's the leader that's close to the ground. You look at Jesus in the Bible. He took off the sandals of his disciples, and he washed their feet. And I've seen in my school, I've got the greatest, such a lovely principal. And you know what? In every single capacity, there's no airs or graces about him. I just feel I'm talking to a peer. And I feel that is such overlooked aspect of leadership is being that I'm here with you. I'm shoulder to shoulder. And I think you know what's a really good thing too? You look at the best conversations that happen to people. They're not up and down, or they're not down and up. They're shoulder to shoulder. You know, we have a great tradition in Ireland, you know, of the men in the farms, you know, working when we used to before, you know, massive tractors and machinery came in. But those men and their sons, and even the daughters, they used to have great conversations in the field while they were working together, shoulder to shoulder, you know, the sideways conversation. So it's very funny and I think that's a really good analogy for servant leadership is that we're together working here. I'm not going to use my authority to make you feel bad. I'm not going to make my authority to make you feel that I'm not approachable. Like I look at my principal, you go, what? He's got a rule like with the kids in the morning. He's outside the school gate welcoming everyone into the day in school, you know? Such a simple thing to do, but I'm there with you guys. I'm welcoming you in. You know what I mean? You're here. I live here. I'm not in my office. I'm not in my ivory tower away from you. I'm here with you. I'm on the ground with you, you know? And I take that whole thing of grounded, humility, you know, being present in the nuts and bolts of something and not isolating yourself from your co-workers if you've got that element of authority. I think it goes so far in any leadership career, you know, and showing that you care about the people you work with, you know?
That's fantastic. And, you know, I'd say one thing. I love the idea that you mentioned your principals out in front, grading students every day. I do the same at my school.
Yeah.
I'm out there every morning and I'm directing traffic and grading students, except on Wednesday. And maybe this is a story about how gratitude works. Except on Wednesdays, I call it Welcome Sign Wednesday. And I hold a positive sign for the students to read. And I take pictures with the students with the sign. And I actually had some staff do it so they could see it in a different light. And the staff started filling up the calendar where it was few and far between that I was doing myself because the staff was out there with greeting the students with the signs. I was still out there saying hi and welcoming and taking pictures, but it was the staff that was holding the sign greeting the students. And just the change in attitudes as the students walked into school. But the most important piece of that was the staff reported back to me that it was, at first they were a little shy to do it. They were out of their comfort zone a little bit. But when they did it, they said it was such a good feeling that they had, and it just set them off on the rest of the day on the right foot. They just had a great day starting it that way.
Good for you. Good for you. I'm going to follow up with that too. One thing that's a bit of a bugbear for me as well. So then if you go into these classrooms and you see these teachers with all this stuff, see, believe, achieve, you can be anything you want to be. Today you're a happy car, blah, 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 all this stuff, you know? And sometimes you see the teachers and they're like, get out of my way, move out of the way, blah, blah, blah. What? I just see your environment, it's all positive. But I think, what, you know what I'm saying? There's I see it, I'm like, what? They're afraid to talk in your class. And you see like, you know, who's the happy unicorn today? Like type of stuff on their thing. And this is nonsense. But I love, again, you're making it human because you're not just putting the sign up on the wall. There's the human with it. Yeah?
Yeah.
Unless you have a human with the sign saying, I believe in this. I believe that we all need to be a risk taker today. I genuinely think this is important and I'm going to stand next to the sign. Just putting it up on a wall and not referring to it and makes just lip service, means nothing. So I respect that. That's a lovely idea.
Good stuff.
Learning from you too, my friend.
Well, hey, Michael, you've given so many different ways to approach this and so many different ways to get it across to people to help them approach it.
Thank you, Chris.
If somebody wants to get in touch with you, I'm going to put the link for your newsletter in the show notes.
Yeah.
But if somebody wants to get in touch with you besides that, can they? Is there an easy way to do it?
I actually, I just started off the newsletter and I don't know how I can have return email, but I guess, if they subscribe, right, and I do figure out a way of setting up my own email address for this, etc., it'll be on the email. But I'd say the best of you just subscribe. I'm trying to figure it out. And when I figure out a way of contacting me, I'll set up a channel or something that I can, be reached out at. Yeah, but just subscribe for now. I think it's the best thing. And just one other thing, Chris, is the easiest thing to replicate. All you do is go to Walmart. You can probably buy like 25 little micro notebook for probably, $3 or $4. And you can set your class off. And next year, come in September, start off right from the get-go. And imagine how beautiful it'll be even getting to Christmas and saying, lads, who wants to share their favorite, some gratitude for the first term together? Do you know what I'm saying? So it's very easy to start off with. And please, all the teachers out there that need a break, set up your gratitude encyclopedia over the summer. Take some time. Have a lot of coffee while you're thinking about it.
I'm going to leave it right there. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Chris.
I could listen to you forever. So maybe we can set something up and talk again soon.
Chris, you're a legend, and I really appreciate the opportunity. And I truly am blessed to share this conversation with you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. You're a brilliant man. Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap, but not the end. Next step, be sure to take action on something you heard here today. Hey, thanks for listening to the Seeing to Lead podcast. If you would like to connect for any reason, email me at drchrissj@gmail.com or catch me on Twitter at drcsjones. If you've gotten any value from the Seeing to Lead podcast today, you can help me and other leaders create a world-class environment through a teacher-centric approach by subscribing to the show, leaving an honest rating and review, and sharing this episode on social media with your most valuable takeaway. Also, one last thing. Have you had a chance to pick up my latest 5-star rated book yet? Grab your copy of Seeing to Lead anywhere you buy books or at seeingtolead.com. That's seeingtolead.com, where you can learn more and continue to improve. Now go have a successful week.